The Pitt is back this week with Season 2 Episode 2, and following on from the dramatic ending where Dr Al-Hashimi was looking down at the baby in a confused state, the episode picked up directly from that moment as we entered our second hour on shift, and I'm glad to hear that we weren't the only ones to notice the strange look in her eye. With Mel's deposition plaguing her now almost concussed mind, Dr Robby and Dr Al-Hashimi clashing in more ways than one, and the sad reality of dealing with patients that have dementia needing to relive the moment where their loved one died over and over again. This was an hour on shift that was arguably just as stressful as the first, so let's dive into the episode, break down the important details, and I'll share if it was good or not. Here is the Pitt Season 2 Episode 2 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Dr Robby and Dr Al-Hashimi. Like what happened in Episode 1, we saw that Dr Robby and Dr Al-Hashimi were clashing in more ways than one. Within this week's episode, Dr Al-Hashimi was looking to not only add the patient passport, but she was also looking to incorporate generative AI as a tool that all of the doctors used, especially when it came to charting what was wrong with the patients. However, as we saw, it did still make errors when it was uploaded from the app. As the episode went on, we saw that Robby and Dr Al-Hashimi were clashing in several different ways. For example, Robby was standing by the fact that he didn't really want AI to be incorporated onto the floor because AI would never have a gut, and that was something that he felt like doctors needed to have. We also saw that she was putting pressure onto other doctors by making them go into complete detail when it wasn't really necessary, and she was also offering her opinion on the patient with the dislocated shoulder and saying that he should have been having his procedure done in OR when it wasn't a possibility. What this did to me is that it showed that she wasn't doing the thing that she probably should have done when she first got into the Pit, and that was to understand who she was working with there and exactly how the Pit operated. She's essentially come in on her first day and tried to change everything, so it's bound to cause some level of friction. Right at the end of the episode, we saw that Dr Al-Hashimi was still trying to push her ideas onto Dr Robby, and she wanted him to properly listen to what she was saying. But before he got the opportunity to, a new patient was brought in on the back of an ambulance after being tasered. The chaotic nature and the response that the patient had and Robby dealing with that almost highlighted how there wasn't time to properly listen to, review and implement all of the ideas that Dr Al-Hashimi had because there was always another emergency around the corner. It also brought to light that the Pit operated in the way that it did because it was the way that it functioned best. I feel like a core thing that's going to be at the heart of this season is the fact that Dr Al-Hashimi and Dr Robby are going to continue to clash. With Dr Robby, even though he's leaving by going on sabbatical and truly needing a break, he doesn't want things to be completely different and unrecognizable when he returns. So it's going to be interesting to see how this feud between them and the disagreements that they have don't spill over into the workplace in a way that's unprofessional. We still didn't find out what was going on with Dr Al-Hashimi and the baby with the way that she looked at it, but it was noticed by the other doctors there. I'm still standing by my theory last week where I feel like she might well have lost a child in the past, and seeing this baby that had been abandoned could cause memories to come flooding back when it looked directly into her eyes. She's quite an emotionally cold person, and I wonder if suffering something as traumatic as that caused her to act like that. Mel's deposition. Mel has her deposition coming up on this shift, and it's clear to see that it's the singular thing that she's worrying about most. She almost can't focus on anything because it's plaguing her mind. Dr Robby told her that she didn't need to worry because 9 times out of 10, a doctor wins the lawsuit and that he'd been sued 4 times in the past. Dr Al-Hashimi obviously hadn't been sued before, and you could tell that she was going to come out with that answer long before she even said it. Obviously, that didn't help Mel's frame of mind. When Mel was dealing with the patient that was admitted in the first episode, she was having a genuine conversation with him, and the moment he saw the police, he ended up knocking her to the ground when he ran away. Mel ultimately hit her head and she needed to take some time out. I thought she was concussed at first, and judging by the lack of focus that she had when dealing with the guy that took the 2 ED shots, it feels like her head isn't in the best position. Her knocking her head was almost symbolic of her mind being in a dazed state because of the case. When Dr Langdon was helping her, there was a real tenderness to the way that they were speaking with each other. It was really personal and you could tell that they cared for each other. Langdon apologized to her for letting her down and admitted that he was off because he was in rehab. This is clearly part of his process when on the road to recovery, to apologize to all of the people that he felt that he'd done wrong to, as he did it to Louis in episode 1. Mel simply responded, "You never let me down," and it was a powerful response because you could tell that there was sincerity in her words. Mel was also approached by the police in this episode over the patient that ran away because it turned out that he robbed a liquor store, and she was told that if they caught him, she'd have to appear in court as a witness to the injuries that he sustained. This was something that caused her to panic, most likely because it was connected to a court of law and her deposition was coming up. With Mel knocking her head and her deposition being in a couple of hours, I wonder how severe her panic mode is going to be as the clock ticks down more and more. Ogilvie versus Javadi. Now, this is a feud that I didn't know I needed, and I feel we could also see that Dr Robby was taking amusement in watching the two expressing their knowledge whilst also trying to one-up each other. Ogilvie had already tried to undermine Dr Whittaker when dealing with Louis in front of Dr Robby, which seemed like a bit of a snake move. But with Dr Javadi being told that he was coming for her because he wanted to show that he was superior to her, that was exactly what we saw. They rallied well, but I'd say Dr Javadi definitely won. However, I don't think this is the last we'll hear of it. I can see it now. 4th of July weekend, the busyness. The system goes down and Ogilvie is still trying to undermine everyone. I definitely don't think it's going to end well for him. Dr Santos. I think this is the most heartbreaking story of them all in this season, and it's about young Kylie and all of the injuries that she has on her. This is the story that's connecting to the whole element of doctors listening to their gut. The different injuries that Kylie has could be insinuating the fact that she's been suffering at the hands of her father, but as it's a sensitive matter, Dr Santos has to go through all of the procedures and not jump to conclusions, because if that isn't actually what's happening, then she could end up in a lot of trouble for it. You can tell that she's already made up her mind and that she believes that the father of Kylie is the villain of the story, which is something that she shouldn't necessarily be doing. The social worker Dylan Easton was on call and had spoken with Kylie's father's girlfriend, and he came to the conclusion that she wasn't inflicting anything, so it's now down to his assessment of the father and the examination that's going to be done on Kylie on what the outcome of this could be. This is a powerful story because we're seeing the process that the doctors need to have when dealing with a case like this, because if conclusions are jumped to and accusations are thrown around, it could become very messy and prove to be extremely damaging. My review of the episode. I thought this was another very good, chaotic, immersive, and powerful episode of the Pitt. Every single new patient that came in brought a uniqueness to the environment. Whether it be the guy that had dislocated his shoulder but was then transferred to a different hospital, it showed how things like that can often occur with no rhyme or reason, all because of insurance policies. We saw Orlando choking on his broccoli, the guy that took 2 ED shots, and we saw Louis just kicking back and having his oil changed. However, I think Louis' story is going to be one that turns out to be pretty sad, as I think there might end up being something wrong with him beyond just needing the fluid drained from his body. A part of the episode that I thought was particularly sad was when Evelyn, who had dementia, kept forgetting that her husband Ethan had passed away, and Dr Whittaker had to tell her over and over again on several occasions that Ethan was no longer with them. There was this haunting reality to the situation where you could feel the upset that was present, and the repetitive nature of having to tell someone that the person that they loved most in the world had died could be emotionally shattering. On a lighter note, the guy that came in after doing 2 ED shots as it was his 20th wedding anniversary was pretty humorous. What I will say though is when they gave us the shot of them draining the fluid from it, that made me feel so uncomfortable. I've honestly got to stop having my morning coffee when watching this show. I feel like the first 2 episodes have introduced us back into the Pitt well. We've seen the feuds that are present across all levels, the camaraderie that's also at the heart of it, the leadership of Dr Robby, but the clashing with Dr Al-Hashimi, the risks that are there with the likes of Mel, and the patients that receive the best care that they can get from the best team in the ER on our screens. So, there you have it, the Pitt Season 2 Episode 2 ending explained.